Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. So glad you guys can join us once again. For those tuning in on the simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X, we're glad you all can be with us. Also, going to bring in our friends over on IG so they can be a part of our conversation. And last but certainly not least, going to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. I'm really excited about this next guest because she's written a book that is very personal to her, but I think all of us can learn something from it that we can be able to use in our own lives. So I'm excited to be able to chat with her. And we're now live on Amazon Live with Cyrus Webb Presents. Going to type you guys a quick welcome message over there. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon platform, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner here or down below. You also will see the book by our next guest. We're excited to welcome Sarah May to our broadcast today. She wrote a book called She Journeys. It's out now. It's a fascinating look not only at chapters of Sarah's life, but also I think some great life lessons that she's able to share with us that I think will be able to help us in moving forward in our lives and not to be stuck either when it comes to trauma or past experiences, but realize the better is still yet to come. If you guys are not following Sarah, we'll let you guys know how to do that. But Sarah, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. It's so good to be here. And hello to all the listeners.
Well, thank you so much. So, Sarah, the book is now officially out. How does it feel to have been preparing for this time and now to be able to see the early response to it?
Yeah, Cyrus, it's incredible. So my book just came out 2 days ago on Tuesday, and it feels amazing. It feels like a huge relief because I've been working on this writing for 4 years, but many, many more doing the different healing work in order to be able to even write this book and get to this stage. So I am just so excited. It's been a huge labor of love, and it just feels really good to have it out in the world now.
Yeah. I love the fact that there's such an interesting balance of the book. Sarah, I didn't know you, of course, before the book being pitched to me and then reading it. But I feel like there's such a great balance of dealing with the challenges and difficult stuff in life, but also realizing that doesn't have to be the end of the story. How much has that helped you in your own journey, Sarah, to realize that no matter how ugly the thing may be at the time, that you can be able to have better and that you deserve better in your life?
Yeah, Cyrus, thank you for naming that. And honestly, that was one of the biggest lessons was, little backstory is I was married at 21 and it was a very traumatic, abusive relationship where, it really imploded. And so that's what we're talking about, that like, it feels like the world is ending and kind of hitting a rock bottom. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was actually a beginning, right? It was the beginning of a life that was more in alignment and where I would be in a relationship that wasn't causing me harm or trauma or pain. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but when everything fell apart, it was so necessary so that everything could be rebuilt. And writing my book, I was really able to reflect on that, how sometimes the most painful things or the things we think are earth shattering, they have to be so that we can create the space to rebuild something that is more true, that is more lasting, that is more about what we deserve in the end. So thank you for that question. I really appreciate that, Cyrus. And that's definitely a major theme of my book, for sure.
Yeah. And I think there's something that we are able to kind of put together as people read the book, Sarah. And again, for those joining us on the Amazon side, you guys can get it either in print or start reading the Kindle edition now. Of course, it's on sale as well. And for you guys joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you'll find the link there for Amazon too. The other thing is we're able to understand that, yes, you went through that experience when it came to the marriage, Sarah, but even it caused you to reflect on your family's past history and trauma. And the reason why I bring that up is because I think a lot of times we feel like, you know what, this isn't going to work for me because it didn't work for this member of my family or this happened in my family. What made you realize that you could not only break the cycle, but be able to create your own new chapter and way of life?
Yeah, such a powerful question. So we're really talking about what we pick up in childhood, right? What our parents model, what our families model, and then also this idea of generational trauma or generational, cycles, what gets passed down to us. And I only realized through a lot of therapy that I married the exact person that I promised myself I never would, which is someone who would betray me. And that's really interesting because growing up, my father betrayed my mother. And I promised myself, oh, I'm never going to marry a man that would do that to me. I saw the pain that it caused, right? And I was, on the receiving end of that pain. But what's really interesting is I also never addressed those wounds or the dysfunction in my childhood, or rewrote those stories that I had witnessed, that love is betrayal, love is pain, love is going to hurt. And what you do is you stay no matter what. So that was my modeling that was so deep in me that I wasn't even conscious of it. So when I married someone who would betray me, like my dad had betrayed my mom, I was choosing the very thing that I wanted to avoid. Not consciously, of course, but this is just how powerful what gets passed down can be.
Right.
And it was really through going through that process, going through that heartbreak, realizing that love doesn't need to be pain, that love isn't betrayal and isn't heartbreak, and that I love myself more and that I deserve more. And leaving that relationship was really like reclaiming my power. And looking back, I was able to see in my family line so many relationships that were the same story as mine. You know, they were married very young and quickly evolved into an abusive relationship, but they stayed. All the women stayed. And that's partly because that's just what you did at the time. Women didn't really have the option to leave, but now we do, thank God. And I could leave and I could rebuild my life and I could start over. And so leaving was a really powerful act, not just for me, but I believe also for my generational cycle, you know, breaking this generational cycle, and for my ancestors. And it was really interesting in the healing process of my book. I have a chapter dedicated to my ancestors. So really unpacking the stories of those who came before us and how they impact us. And we know that trauma gets passed down, right, into our cells, into our memories, some things we're not usually not even conscious of. And so making that conscious and making that aware so that we're not just perpetuating something that may not even be ours.
Right. I love that. Sarah, and it's such a great point. I want to go back, though, for those who are just discovering you, Sarah. Again, the book is just out this week. Talk to us about the decision to share, because you mentioned already in this conversation that that therapy is a part of the healing process that you've been able to avail yourself of, and that's one thing. For other people, just writing it for themselves would have been therapeutic enough, to be able to just to get it out there. What was it that made you say that yes, this is personal, yes, parts of this is painful, but I know it can also be helpful? When did you make that decision that you wanted to be able to help other people by sharing your story?
Cyrus, you cut out for just a second, but I think
Okay.
you were asking me about the writing process and what made me
Right.
share my story.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, and so I've always loved writing. My parents modeled the process of keeping a daily journal. So since I was a teenager, I've written in a journal every single day. So I have stacks and stacks of journals. And it's interesting, it really became my way of processing and reflecting, and I guess you would call it like a daily ritual, a self-care practice. And so I had already been primed to process experience through writing. And after everything I went through, I kept a blog and I wrote a little bit about some of the things that had come up. And I just always knew I would want to write a book about it. And it's interesting because at first my intention was like, oh, this could really help people, writing a book. And then I was reading Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert when she says, like, that's a beautiful intention, but please don't do that. Like, we will feel the weight of your intention and it will be too heavy. Like, if you're going to do this, do it for you. And so just like that, everything changed. And I approached this as an act of self-love and as an act of discipline to honor a dream that I've always had in my heart of writing a book. I just didn't know this would be that book. But it was really interesting because I was really blocked with the writing process and having trouble knowing where to begin. And then after I read that quote, it totally changed everything. And I really approached this as like, oh, this can help me go deeper on my healing process. And it did. I mean, writing can be incredibly cathartic in helping us process, and especially trauma. There's some studies that link just writing about trauma can help us integrate it and process it and work through some of those like triggers. And that was absolutely my experience, was going back and reliving some of the traumatic things I experienced in my marriage and earlier really did help me work through and process on an even deeper level. And so writing was absolutely one of the most cathartic things and so helpful. and really led me to ask some of the hardest questions I've asked myself and get super honest about it, which wasn't always easy or comfortable.
Right.
But that process of taking responsibility and ownership over my story was profound.
And I think that's one of the things that people appreciate. I want to reset real quick here, Sarah, and let our audience know. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb Presents. We're speaking with author Sarah May today. She's celebrating her new book is called She Journeys. If you guys are on the Amazon side again, you'll see it in our carousel. We have the print edition there as well as a Kindle edition. For those who are joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on YouTube, you'll see the link there for Amazon to be able to get your copy. For those joining us on X, it'll be in the comment section. Over on IG, hello to you. Good to be able to see you. Omega, Samantha, hello to you as well. If you guys have any questions or comments, and I appreciate the hearts over there on YouTube. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you guys do put those in the chat as well. You mentioned something just now, Sarah. I want to mention for our audience, because I think it's such a great point. And it's a great reminder, too, I think, because as you were talking about writing this for yourself, and then, of course, the people are helped by it, which I believe they will be. I mean, there are parts of it that really were inspiring to me. What was it like for you to see your own strength as it evolved and grew as you were reading the book for yourself and even going through your different experiences, Sarah?
Yeah, thank you, Cyrus, for those kind words. Uh, I think after leaving my husband, I embarked on this cross-country road trip. And I was really lost in life. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to live. I had very little direction, but I knew that I was taking this trip.
Right.
And so that was the beginning of me, after feeling so disempowered in my marriage, realizing like, oh, I do have power. I am strong, right? Through camping alone, through backpacking alone, and having those experiences, it was really empowering. And that was the beginning, I think, of me kind of reclaiming my strength. And then throughout this writing process, looking back and reflecting on just how much power I had given away in my relationship, and how when we heal or when we go through traumatic experiences, anything that helps us feel in our power or bring our power back is so critical. And it really was for me. And I saw that in taking a yoga class and feeling strong enough to do a pose. I mean, something that simple after feeling disempowered can really help us rewrite the narrative, because I really felt like in my marriage, I had given so much power away. And I would have categorized myself as severely codependent and also contributing to dysfunction. But I also had this kind of victim mentality afterwards of like, oh, this was all my husband's fault. He did this, he ruined our marriage, when really like that was another form of giving my power away. So me taking responsibility and looking at my role and my behavior and my beliefs, right, and my programming, that was also, while it was hard because I had to acknowledge, oh, I was wrong too. I did things that weren't okay as well.
Right.
It was also me coming into power, because I think victim mindset is like when you're blaming, you're making someone else actually you're giving someone else power over your story. Whereas
Right.
when we start taking responsibility, we become the author of our story. And
Mhm.
so writing this book really helped me pull power back and take responsibility instead of just blaming, which was a huge part of the process for me.
What you just said remind me of the dual meaning of this for myself as a reader, Sarah, of the book title She Journeys. Because as you just mentioned, yes, you were able to take a literal trip, but there's also that inward trip that we're able to take along with you too, as we're kind of navigating the world with you. You said something earlier in this conversation, and it reminded me of something you and I were talking about in this before we went live here. You were talking about earlier as we were speaking about the book about realizing that you deserved more. That brings up one of the individuals we were able to meet in the book, Mimi, and what she said to you, which I thought was really interesting. That she basically said to you, you know what, you deserve more. You should, you deserve to be earning more than what you are. And I love that exchange because it goes to something I talk about a lot on my platform, Sarah, and that is a lot of times people can see things that we don't see. A lot of times people can appreciate our value and worth more so than we can. Talk to us about Mimi and what that encounter did for you and how it helped you to change the way not only of realizing your value, but also the gifts that you had.
Yeah, thank you, Cyrus, for this question. You're the first person to ask me about Mimi, so I'm really excited to talk about this.
Mhm.
So the story behind this is I was meeting someone who was interested in volunteering for the nonprofit organization I worked for. I'd never met her before. She didn't know who I was. I didn't know who she was. And you know, when you meet someone and you just kind of click, like
Yeah.
you just feel like you almost know them and you talk effortlessly and it's a great conversation. So that's what her and I experienced. And then towards the end of our conversation, she just looks at me and she's like, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, okay. She goes, you need to ask for more money at your job. You're worth a lot more than what they're paying for you. And you don't need to work so hard for so little. And I was so weirded out. I was like, how did she know that? I mean, none of our conversation was about this. And
Mhm.
it had been something internally that I had been struggling with for months, and a lot of scarcity, struggling to pay the bills, working for a nonprofit, the cost of living, et cetera, like just really struggling. And I felt like she just saw me. And it was so disarming and it was so vulnerable that I started crying because I was like, how did you know? How did you see that? And she explained to me that she had taken this class to cultivate her intuition, which we all have intuition, right? It's that gut feeling, how we know what we know. But her seeing me in that way, it felt so validating. It was like someone just peeled back a curtain and was like, I see you. This is what you need. And Cyrus, like you said, sometimes we don't see it for ourselves, but
Right.
having someone else mirror that for us is like the permission that we didn't even know we needed.
Mhm.
And for me, I've really struggled with self-worth, with asking for more, with believing that I'm worthy of more.
Right.
And so it was this huge, almost like permission slip of like, yeah, hello, like what else could be a clear sign to ask for more if
Mhm.
you've been like struggling? And so what was really beautiful about that exchange was not only was it validating, it also made me incredibly curious about how she did what she did. I was like, that was magic. How did you do that? I want to do that. And so I learned how. So I started taking classes to develop my intuition. And that really also helped me up level my self worth because I got to know my place, myself from a higher place, right? From a higher place of worth and deservingness and really up level in that respect. And so I'm so grateful to Mimi. It was such a beautiful experience. And sometimes having someone else reflect back to us can be that permission, can be that like validation that we need.
Yeah. And I've experienced that on both sides, I think, Sarah. And I think a lot of our audience have, right? Of someone saying something to you that really helps you to see yourself differently, but also being able to be that individual to do that for someone else. What is your hope now, Sarah? I know that She Journeys is out, and I love the fact that it's She Journeys because to me it's a reminder that as long as we're alive, the journey continues. What do you hope people take away from the book that not only reminds them about you, but also about what's possible for them?
Yeah, thank you, Cyrus. And I love that you pointed out like it's a journey, like healing, because the book is very much about healing. It's not
Yeah,
a destination. It's about like what we learn along the way, just like in life. It's not about getting to the end, right? It's about experiencing everything this life has to offer along the way. And so it's about taking this journey both metaphorically, right, in the internal sense of like journeying home to a truer version of ourselves, as well as externally, exploring the world and going through the experiences of life. But I really hope that readers gain some sense of something that resonates for their journey. I wrote so personally and vulnerably because I believe that that's what can resonate, right? It's the
right.
authenticity, not being perfect. And so I figured that the more that I share from my heart and my truth, then maybe more people can see themselves in my words or in my story and take something for their journey. And that has become my deepest prayer, was that I know how profoundly transformative the healing path was for me, and that now I'm living a life that's just beyond anything I dreamed of at a time when I was so broken. And I believe that's possible for anybody, and that we all have the capacity to heal and live a life of freedom and peace and closure and forgiveness. And so I hope that my book can support others on that journey wherever it finds them.
I think it will do just that. Again, everyone, Sarah May has been our guest. The book is She Journeys. You all can get it here through our friends on Amazon.com, either in print or the Kindle edition. Sarah, great conversation with you. So glad to have you on the program today. How can our audience stay connected with you?
Thank you, Cyrus. It was so good to be here. You can find me at shejourneys.us, and the book is on Amazon. So you can go there, find She Journeys on Amazon, and my name is Sarah May.
All right, Sarah. Congratulations to you again. Looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you so much, Cyrus.
More than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.